All right, let's get into some Casino Royale starring Daniel Craig, Eva Green, and Milk Michelson. I don't know, I can't pronounce his name, but he plays an excellent villain. He did an excellent job in Doctor Strange. But so let's get into this. I'm sorry. I'll make it more serious. But Casino Royale is actually one of my favorite James Bond movies. Maybe my favorite Daniel Craig Bond movie. Still got to go to Skyfall to see. I heard Skyfall is really great. I've only seen the ending of that movie, so I know kind of how it ends, but I don't know how it begins or the middle of it. But as of now, Casino Royale is my favorite Daniel Craig movie. And maybe in my top 5 of all-time Bond movies. I really loved it. Very well directed. I love the screen. I love how they shot it and how they presented Bond in this one. This one, Bond's basically like a rookie. We see him before he became an agent. Very rough and tough, and he's all action and grit and all of that Bond suave. They got that question where he wants his drink, and they ask him if they want to shake it or stir, and he's like, I don't, just give it to me. Basically, is what he says. Who gives a damn or something like that. So he's in that suave, cool James Bond type of character. Also enjoyed the villain. I found him a little bit different because in this movie, the villain is desperate. He's not the main guy. It's more like a general, like a lieutenant henchman type of guy. But he's kind of trying to run the show, and his field of expertise, which is to get people, hopefully I can explain this right. It's about the stock market where he gets people to buy stocks or sell stocks, something with stocks, and then he goes out and does these little terroristic acts to make sure the stock fails, fails so they can make money, or if it fails, somehow like that. That's basically the plot. But James Bond keeps on ruining his plans, so now he owes all these people money because his little schemes aren't working. So he sets up this big poker game, to kind of gamble it and win it all back, and he's basically a genius, which I like because this movie's more cerebral than physical for the most part. As he's going head-to-head with Bond, he plays Bond at the poker table. Bond thinks he has his little ticks, so he can read him, and then he turns out to be a false tick, and Bond loses all his money. Which leads into another great scene where, Bond's poisoned, and and I love that shot because this movie does have some great shots. So the shot where Bond's at the casino, and he's drinking his martini, and then we see a shot where we have the wine glass, we have the glass, and then we see Bond. We see him look at the glass, and we know that he recognizes that something's been spiked with his drink. I love that shot. And then you have the shot where they get that car chase at night in the Porsche, and everything's dark, and you just kind of see the cars and their headlights in overview. One of my favorite of all time Bond shots. I mean, in the past, like the Moore and Connery Bond, they love to show Bond in the countryside and whatever country they're in. You get really the terrain of the country they're in, and it looks very beautifully shot that way. But this movie, not so much of that, but of those kind of shots of the chase scenes or him recognizing that he's been poisoned. I do got a great chase scene. What's going on here behind me near the beginning of the movie, right after the song, the great Bond song. Very well shot, very well impactful, very intense. This movie's all about intensity, whether it's even at the poker table, goons coming after him, and then you got the great last scene at the end. You got the painful, at least for a guy watching, a torture scene with Bond where he's stripped naked. I'm sure the girls like that one. Set down and chained, and then the villain there is taking a rope and knocking on some balls there. It's very painful, but it's kind of funny too, especially how Bond kind of, the line that Bond gives him, he starts laughing. He's like, what are you laughing about? He says, everybody's going to know that the last thing you did before you die was scratch my balls. Which, that's great. Great Bond, great Daniel Craig line there. But yeah, so this movie is very rough and very gritty like that. It's very violent in ways where they don't really cut anything back. So this Bond is more like your Timothy Dalton type of Bond. You know, if you watch those Timothy Dalton, it's very rough, it was very like straightforward. Didn't really give a damn. You know, he's all about the action, getting the job done. Not really winking at the camera or anything, or about trying to woo a girl or anything like that. He's just trying to get the job done. That's basically what this type. So if you're going to try to connect all the Bonds, I guess the Daniel Craig would be first, and then you would go to the Timothy Dalton ones, I guess, and then Connery, and then Roger Moore, and then Pierce Brosnan. That's how I would order them if I had to do so. Would you agree with that? I don't know if you're still hanging around at this time. We got the psychology game, torture scene, flipping the Bond for me. And then Vesper Lynn, played by Eva Green. Here, I'm checking my notes, of course. She delivers a really good performance, right up there with Daniel Craig in this movie. Her character is like, you're like, oh, she's so sweet, she's good. And then all of a sudden, she portrays Bond, and it's kind of has a conflict with Bond because you can tell that you really liked her, maybe on the edge of falling in love with her, but you know, they really had a connection. And then she portrays him, and we kind of see this in Daniel Craig's character. He's like Bond, is that he's not sentimental. You know, there's parts where he has something of the girl and he just throws it away. You know, it's like he's not gonna linger on. And this one, he immediately switches the flip, you know, calls her, you know, a B word, traitor, you know, because he can't really function in that way of being sentimental, because being sentimental, you know, could be death for you. But, you know, M's kind of like a reminder, like, you know, she actually saved your life, you know, from what her actions, you know, they didn't kill you while you were being tortured, and she didn't really betray him. But, you know, he doesn't really want to hear it. But he still tries to save her life at the end, right? And then one thing that this Bond is kind of different from other Bonds, you actually have like a to be continued type of ending, where, yeah, like you know, there's going to be like a part 2, you know, a continuation of this storyline as he ends with him going after the henchman, the main ringleader of this organization. Overall, like I said, Casino Royale, one of my favorites. I think it's one of the best Bonds out there. Definitely would introduce, if nobody's seen a Bond movie, I would put Casino Royale in there. But I don't know if Daniel Craig is one of my favorite Bonds. But I enjoy him a lot playing this role, at least in this movie. We'll see in the future. I've already seen Quantum of Solace again. Just a heads up, I didn't really like that one. And I've seen Spectre like a long time ago. I got my notes down for that for a review. That's again, it was an uneven movie in my opinion. Just a little preview for that one. Here's Skyfall and Casino Royale is probably the top 2 best Craig movies. So be interested in that one. I'm trying to watch all these before April 20th, before they all leave Netflix. That's where they are. So if you're a Bond fan and you want to stream some Bond movies, go to Netflix. It even has Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. That movie's on there right now as well. Hopefully you enjoy this. Have a great day, and let me know in the comments below. Until next time, bye-bye.